All right, Mr. McNeely, this is Chair Aunt Tavares. It is 4:00 p.m. So would you please start our study session?
Absolutely, Madam Chair. And we don't yet have a quorum, but that's okay. We can do your study session without a quorum. And our understanding is that Commissioner Williams is our only planned absence for the public hearing.
Okay.
But with that, Madam Chair, commissioners and staff, any members of the public who have chosen to join us, welcome to the Planning and Zoning Commission study session for today. And item 1 on the study session agenda will be our one scheduled public hearing for next month's regularly scheduled Planning and Zoning Commission public hearing on October 30th. It's CUP 24, I believe 05. If I think we may have gotten the number incorrect on your study session agenda, no problem. It is a conditional use permit for a utility facility for a battery energy storage system. And Bob from our staff is managing this case. So Bob, if you want to go ahead and give a orientation, we see your slide presentation, Bob.
Okay, thank you, Mr. McNeely. Thank you, Madam Chair and Commission. This case is, as Mr. McNeely said, the Lariat Battery Energy Storage System. That's long for BESS system. And in this case, the property owner is AZ Storage 3 LLC of Miami, Florida. Applicant is James Devon of Origis Energy of San Diego. The zoning is planned community, and in this case, the IL 10,000 light industrial standards have been applied. So the location of the property is on Dry Lake Road. It's about 400 feet east of Flagstaff Ranch Road. The size is 2 parcels, and they total 2.93 acres. And the request is a BESS system, a battery energy storage system. In our zoning ordinance, this is listed as a utility facility. This is a vicinity map showing the subject properties. This is West 66. This is I-40. This is Flagstaff Ranch, and down here, and you can see this is Flagstaff Ranch Road and Dry Lakes right through here. These are the 2 subject properties. This is a close-up and aerial photo of the subject properties. You can see they're very forested, so the applicant will be taking advantage of the trees and using them for landscaping. They've already done a tree inventory of the site, so they can do that. Okay, the proposed development is a 50 megawatt battery energy storage system. And this also includes a 1,100 foot underground line that would connect this system to the APS Woody Mountain substation. The purpose of this kind of system is to help with grid stabilization. So as renewable energy comes online, some of the energy that comes in gets stored rather than it being wasted. So it gets stored in places like this to be released on the grid later whenever more energy is needed. And I did want to note that the Flagstaff Fire Department has provided an agreement to provide fire services to the property. And I did hold up this project for a little while. I've been waiting for that for a while. Okay, this is a site plan showing the proposal. So this is the BESS system right here. This is a smaller substation with a big fence around it, and that would connect underground down to the APS Woody Mountain substation. And this is Interstate 40, so right in this area right here. And this is a close-up of it. Again, you can see this. These are the storage batteries in here. And this is that substation right here. And with that, I'll take any questions from the commission.
All right, Commissioner Ruggles, please go ahead. You're muted, Commissioner Ruggles.
There we go. Thank you.
There you go.
Okay, I had the pleasure of listening in on the staff study session, and my questions pretty much were identical to what Ms. Shaw brought up during that staff study session, primarily dealing with fire suppression. But I'm a little more specific than that because of the cost of this. I take it for granted that the applicant has an on-site fire suppression system that is part and parcel of the battery array. I believe this is pretty much standard, but I'd just like to hear from the applicant at the next planning and zoning hearing, just that they do have an on-site suppression system. I'd be rather surprised if they don't. So I'm going to leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Ruggles. Commissioner Wilson.
I have a couple of questions. Thank you for that. It appears that the majority of the trees are going to be, if not all of the trees are going to be removed from those two parcels to support this facility. Is that a correct assessment, Mr. Short?
Commissioner Ruggles, I'm sorry, Mr. Wilson. Mr. Wilson, yes, most of them will be. There will be some left because there is a landscaping requirement for this type of development. And what you can do is, I think the commission's all seen this before, you can use existing forest for your landscaping. So they definitely intend to retain a number of the trees on the site, but obviously it's a pretty big development. You can see here that there's quite a bit that's going to be removed. There would be some maybe around here and along and in this area, I believe, that would be retained to meet their landscaping requirement.
Okay, and then the zoning for the property to apparently the south, looking at this view, who owns that property and what is the zoning of that?
I have not looked at that. I can look it up pretty quick if you would like.
Maybe
no, this is zoning.
I think it's industrial light.
Sorry, go ahead. Mr. Wilson, do you have another comment?
Oh, yeah. Next question would be the route for the underground utilities to the APS substation. Is that an existing easement or is that something that would have to be implemented?
Yeah, on the site plan, it says proposed 16-foot to utility easement.
So that would be dependent upon the owner of what appears to be lot number 3 on this chart or this.
Right. They would have to have that in place.
Okay. You mentioned that Flagstaff Fire Department has agreed to provide fire protection here. Why is this not in the city limits?
Commissioner Wilson, yes, it's not in the city limits. The city limits is right there, though, as you can see. Let me go back to an aerial.
Okay.
And that would be like, yeah. So the city limits is right here. If it was in the city limits, then it wouldn't be in our jurisdiction. So it would be their case.
Okay. And the batteries that will be used in this facility, do they contain lithium?
Yes.
That's my understanding. Yes, they do.
Okay. And so the fire suppression system, I'm anxious to hear more about that, and we'll wait until the applicant has an opportunity to fill us in on that. I'm anxious to hear more. And the perimeter fence around the exterior, is that just going to be standard 6-foot chain link, or is it, how is that going to blend in with the local environment there?
I haven't looked totally at that. I believe we did discuss that they would have some kind of blocking fence here, either chain link with slats or some type of wooden fence. If
Okay.
it says that project security fencing doesn't say. I think it may be in the application. I have to pull it up.
Okay, thank you.
And Mr. Wilson, to answer your previous question, the zoning to the south is CH 10,000, which is commercial zone, and the zoning to the north and back to the west is also the light industrial zoning.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Short. I'm not seeing any other hands raised. Sorry about that. By the commissioners. So, Mr. McNeely, would you please go ahead and bump up to the pending review at study session administrative applications?
Absolutely, Madam Chair. So next item on your study session agenda is the administrative renewals pending review by our staff. We are not seeing any issues on these two listed cases, CUP 2436 and 35, both admin renewals. The renewal came in on time, and no change requests, and not seeing any compliance issues on either of these. So we would ask if any of the commissioners have any questions on renewal of either of the listed CUP admin renewals.
Okay, Mr. McNeely, I'm not seeing any, so let's go ahead and advance to Community Development Department update.
Will do. So, Madam Chair, we have with us this evening, in addition to Melissa Shaw, our long-range planner, we have Sarah Dector, who is our partner long-range planner for the city in working on Flagstaff Regional Plan update. So I believe for items 1 and 2, Melissa and Sarah will give you an update on the Flagstaff Regional Plan, or that's for item 1, and then Melissa will give you the same as a quick update to the comprehensive plan updates. So Melissa and Sarah, if you'd like to give a presentation, please go ahead.
Sure. Thank you, Jess and commissioners. I will bump this over to Sarah Dector. She is the manager for the Flagstaff Regional Plan update. And as you all have been hearing at these study sessions, we've been partners with the city in this update process, which has taken place over the past couple of years. And just to give you another bit of information, we presented this as the same presentation to a joint meeting of the Board of Supervisors and City Council earlier this week. So I do believe Sarah is with us, and I'm going to share screen to share the PowerPoint. And Shar, if you can make sure that Sarah can also speak, that would be great. Let me see. Sarah, are you with us?
I don't see Sarah on here yet.
Okay, I thought I saw her earlier. Hold on a second. Okay, hold on. I'm gonna go on mute. I thought I saw her earlier, so let me just contact her. Give me 1 minute. Okay, Commissioners, my apologies. I thought Sarah was on earlier, but something might have come up. So I've contacted her and she just messaged back. She'll be right here. And I'm going to go ahead and get ready and share screen. Are you seeing my screen now?
Yep, seeing it.
Great. Okay, thank you. We'll just wait a second for Sarah to arrive.
Hey, sorry, I was having a connection issue I was trying to fix.
Okay, thank you, Sarah. Yeah, we figured it was something. I thought I saw you on earlier. So anyway, I've got the slideshow queued up, and I did make introductions about, for you, and we're very happy you're available to join us today. So go right ahead and jump into the presentation, and I'll advance slides as you need it.
Great. This is a presentation that Melissa and I have done for the City Planning and Zoning Commission, and we did it earlier this week for the Board of Supervisors and City Council, just to get you all up to date on what's coming with approval of a draft plan and getting it out for a 60-day public review. So next slide. I know in past presentations, we've shown you this slide. We are in phase 3 of our engagement process and working with the community to create this draft plan. And the document has been through several rounds of review that we'll discuss a little later. And for the last 9 months, we've been working with an advisory committee that is having their final meeting, hopefully final meeting on Monday of next week, Monday, September 30th at 6 p.m. to review the full draft plan, which was sent out to them a few weeks ago, and to endorse whether it's ready to go out for a review or not. So next slide. To remind you of some of the things we set out with at the beginning of this process, based on the after action reviews we did for the previous plan, the current plan that we're using, the one we adopted in 2014, and feedback from staff on how easy or what challenges there have been in implementing this plan, we've set these critical success factors: that the plan be feasible and implementable, that it be user-friendly and concise, that it reflect community values, that it set clear priorities and minimize conflicting priorities to the extent possible, that incorporate diverse cultural perspectives of land, water, and natural resources, that it incorporate critical thinking about vulnerabilities, uncertainties, and complexity, consider the vision of different area plans appropriately, and clarify activity centers and how they will be achieved. It also needs to address cost constraints and affordability concerns for the community. Many of these success factors we've incorporated through our iterative scenario planning process, which there have been several presentations on that process to the Regional Plan Committee over the course of their work. And also, especially the addressing cost constraints and affordability concerns, we've been very tied in with the City of Flagstaff's land availability and suitability and code analysis process, called our last cap, which has been an effort the city undertook to understand what on the development production side of housing is causing costs to go up so quickly, and also what issues or regulatory barriers we may have unintentionally created that could be exacerbating those issues. So the city is looking at our own code in a very robust way, but it's also produced some interesting, your screen changed, some interesting materials for the county to consider too. So for instance, that process has shown that the cost of building single family homes has increased to such a point that a single family home, once constructed, cannot really be produced anymore for less than $900,000, which is a very expensive single family home. And these initial construction costs are part of what the city's been working on, concurrent with the plan, and has been incorporated as far as policy setting goes to consider these critical success factors. Next slide. The Regional Plan Committee is most of these spaces right here, though a few people have stepped out because it's a rather 9 months is a long commitment and there's been a lot of things that have come up. But we have about 20 members of the committee left who have been working on the draft plan with us. During our Regional Plan Committee meetings, there are public comments accepted in advance at our Regional Plan Committee at flagstaffaz.gov email. We have spoken comments for 20 minutes in the meeting. There's already 20 people who all want to have a chance to talk, so there's not quite as much time for public participation, but we do allow it and has been well used in our meetings. And then because of some issues that have happened in the winter, we don't accept written comments through the chat or or allow those who join online to unmute and participate the way that we did previously. And that's partially because of just some issues with order and technology and how we can maintain that appropriately. It's important to remember the Regional Plan Committee is not a formal committee or commission, formal commission, and so they don't have the same open meeting law rules that apply to them, but we've kept the meetings very open. Every meeting that the committee has had has been recorded and posted to the project website. Next. So, as we said, this has been a very transparent writing and creating process for the plan. So the Regional Plan Committee worked through rough drafts and then had staff reviews and then had committee meetings on each chapter and then had working drafts that were posted online after those chapter reviews. And once that iterative chapter by chapter process was complete, over the summer, staff got together and put the whole document together and then did a complete staff review and a complete legal review. And that is the version that you see that says first complete draft. That is what the committee is reviewing on Monday. And we if we're thinking of this in engineering designs, this is basically the 30% plan. There's plenty of room to make changes and hear feedback, but it is kind of enough that it's a complete idea. Once the committee has done their review and we've incorporated all of those changes and any other legal issues that might come up, that document will be sent out to the public and to other government agencies and utilities and other partners that are required to be notified for a 60-day review. Our schedule currently is that will begin on October 20th. During that time, we will go out, Melissa and I again, and do what we have traditionally called the tour day commissions, where we go around to as many boards and commissions and councils that the city and county have as possible and meet with them and advise them on the content. After the 60-day public review, there's the option to reconvene the committee, but we will have another in-depth legal review. And then eventually an even closer to complete draft will be brought to the city council, the city planning and zoning commission, you as a body, the county planning and zoning commission, and the board of supervisors. We are going to ask that all of those bodies meet jointly in a retreat to review the plan chapter by chapter in March or maybe early April of 2025. That will be before we start the public hearing process. So we'll count that as what the city zoning code or city code calls the citizen review session. So that'll be an opportunity for people to come and comment on the work, but also it'll be a chance to do a review before the public hearing so that we are really able to use that public hearing time effectively. If you'll recall from the previous regional plan update, there were very long public participation periods for the reviews of the regional plan, and as there should be, because it ends up going on to a ballot. So next slide. So during this 60-day public review, Melissa and I and the other staff have been working to set up some webinars and workshops. We're going to have both an opening and kind of a almost closing webinar so that there's a chance for people to hop on and hear what it's about, and also hear what is the point of having this material and what have we heard and all of those things. We are also going to have 4 topical workshops in mid-November, sort of timed after the election, but before the holidays start. Sorry, I need to turn off my dinging because it's starting to interrupt. We'll also have weekly office hours, except for Thanksgiving week, where we're just available for drop-in visits with people who want to talk about it or have questions. And that'll be another way. Some of those will be happening. There'll be at least one of those in Belmont and one in the Donny Park area in the county. So next slide. The county is generously offered to let us host the document for comments on the Conveo platform. Melissa, did you want to say anything about this? I know your commission's probably familiar with the tool from the Donny Park process.
Right, we've used this several times, so this is still our very easy to use platform for
Melissa?
receiving public comment. Can you hear me?
Yep, you're fine.
Okay. Yeah, no, yes, the commissioners are pretty familiar with this platform, so we'll be using it again to host the regional plan update on. Thank you.
Great. So next slide. After several rounds of public engagement and working with the committee, there have been 5 areas that really just consistently every round of public engagement come out at the top in terms of priorities. I don't think any of these will surprise anyone who's paying attention to the election or to the public process overall. The first is that people are very concerned about housing attainability and displacement and the increasing housing costs of the region. There's also support for creating mixed use and denser neighborhoods in the community and supporting active transportation. We heard a lot from individuals who wanted to talk about community generated climate pollution and air quality. And those impacts both from the resilience side and from what our contribution and impact are from our regional land use and transportation patterns. And additionally, which has always been a real focus of both the city and county planning efforts, is protection of the region's unique and significant natural and cultural resources. So all of those 5 elements are really at the forefront of a lot of the material within the draft plan. Next slide. I think we've shown this slide to you all before, but some of the principles we used in trying to create the plan is to really focus on land use and land use implementability in what we produce, but also to recognize all these interconnected pieces of what makes growth and land use come together in the region without being incredibly repetitive. So, you know, if we talked about something in the infrastructure section and it had overlap with water resources, that might be acknowledged, but not to have what we have currently in the plan, which is kind of paired policies that are a little repetitive and slightly different. And that was one of the big sources of conflicting policy direction in the current plan. So we've really worked with the committee to try and pay attention to these connections and to make sure we are considering them carefully as we work through the plan. Next slide. The plan is organized a little differently than the way the current plan is. It still has some introduction material and talks about how the plan is implemented, major minor plan amendments, but it's really broken, the chapters are broken into 2 sections. There's a policy section, which is really separated out the things that a planning and zoning commission, city staff, and the city council would use in the context of a development decision or a discretionary development decision or a zoning code update. That really this policy section, chapters 3 and 4, are the meat and potatoes of that kind of application of the regional plan. There are a lot of other things, though, that help support those goals and policies, and we put those in a separate section called implementation. And the 2 pieces, there's 2 different kinds of materials that we've kind of pulled out of what is currently the goals and policies of our current plan and put in this format. And we'll go over that as we talk about the elements of it. So next slide. So the policy section has three big pieces. It has goals and it has policies, which we're all really familiar with from using our current plan. And then it has parcel specific land use categories. So each parcel on the future growth illustration is given a land use category. They are somewhat comparable to the current land use categories. And if you have questions about those, we'd be happy to talk through it. And each category has guidelines on what's appropriate in that area. So what does it mean to be an urban neighborhood or a rural center? And working towards having all of those things make sense and be put on the map in a way where there's no guessing for a property owner if they fit into one category or another. Our current map is more generalized, and that is a challenge that we've had in implementing it at the counter and other places that with development cases. Next slide. The implementation section has these two new concepts. One, it has implementation guidelines, which are assumptions, corresponding policies, or principles that guide how the goals and policies are interpreted and applied by staff. So these are implementation guidelines don't get applied to development cases unless they have been incorporated into code, which is a really key piece, trying to kind of put aside things that we know are a really good idea, but need a code update for us to be able to implement them legally and effectively in a land use scenario. And then the last item is action items. Our current regional plan doesn't have any strategies because a strategies chapter was proposed and it was so extensive that the city council at the time decided not to adopt it. So the county adopted it, but the city did not. And so it really wasn't put into action in a very meaningful way because it ended up kind of being pulled in two different directions. But we have 132 action items that are really tied to the goals and policies. They were developed with them in sight. And then of those, there are 22 of them that are considered a high priority and really critical for implementing the regional plan. Next slide. We also have split out the kind of maps you see in the plan. Our current regional plan has about 32 maps, and they're all just maps. It's really hard to interpret sometimes what you should be doing with a map. But currently we are identifying 6 policy maps. So policy maps actually are a visual aid that sets policy. The growth illustration is an example. The road network illustration. There's 3 maps tied to bike and pet issues because they're kind of at a scale where you couldn't put them all on one map, but they work together. There is a great streets and gateways map, and that's your list essentially of maps that have a policy implication. Oh, I'm sorry, there is one more. There's also a parks and open space map that identifies regional level needs for parks and open space and how that varies across the region. And then finally, in the implementation section, there are just informational maps. So these are maps that help us understand context and the goals and policies and implementation sections and where they apply, but they don't set policy. And this very specifically will help us because we've had some issues with updating content that's factual in some maps, and we kind of are using this distinction to help resolve that. So next slide. So as you can see, the future growth illustration, if you recall what it looks like currently, it's kind of softer and it has activity centers as little, standard sized bubbles. But what you can see here is a map that shows a very different pattern, a very similar pattern in some ways, but also a much more parcel specific look at what kind of land uses we want to see in what locations. So some of the differences between the current future growth illustration and the one that you see here on the screen is there are fewer activity centers in the outskirts of the city of Flagstaff. So the current plan has 26 activity centers, and many of them are kind of not very central to the city and our infrastructure for water and sewer and roads. There are still some small activity centers out in like the John Wesley Powell area, but there are fewer of those kinds of things in this map. The rural activity centers in the county have not changed. We have left those in the same locations they were identified, but instead of them being a circle, we've defined them more parcel specifically. The only other real change in the county is the area that is to the south and west of the airport runway went from suburban to rural at the request of the airport in order to help preserve the flight path and reduce risk to homes and property in that area. We don't want to see, and I'm sorry, the FAA doesn't want us to densify areas that are in flight paths and runways because it's a public safety issue. Do you have anything to add to that, Melissa, before we go to the next slide? Did I miss anything about the county areas?
No, I think the important thing to remember is that the activity centers that are identified in the county, for instance, in the Donny Park, Timberline Fairwood area plan, and in Belmont, those haven't changed. And the fact that they become more parcel specific is in basically coordination with those individual area plans. So if you read them, then the standards that were in those area plans were applied in making those designations. I see there's a hand raised.
Yeah, this is Chair Antiveros. I was going to call on Commissioner Best, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Are state lands on this map?
They are. The boundaries that say like that have the SLP 20, SLP 28, those are state land parcel numbers. So SLP is short for state land parcel.
Can you see
So
the
they are
cursor?
marked on the map.
Yeah, just a suggestion, it might be useful to give them a color. State land, in my mind, is private land. It can be purchased, so it might help to understand the potential out there. Thank you.
Yeah, they are currently assigned they are given a color. They are in a category that actually is worth mentioning because it's significant in the county. That's called federal lands and working landscapes.
This green color here.
This lighter green
Okay.
color. That does not mean it's only federal lands, but it's federal lands and in holdings where we expect that it's going to be the land uses are going to be a little more like the way the forest plans are written than the way we write city and urban plans. Like these are going to be rural parcels primarily. We're not looking to make significant changes to their entitlements unless it's to support forestry or other land management uses like agriculture and ranching. So that's an example of, that's actually the only really new category that's not covered in our current plan. Our current plan, these were often, the category for these lands was called areas in white retain their existing entitlements. It's lovely, isn't it? But people never understood what that meant. So we worked with the Arizona State Land Department to come up with, and with our federal partners to come up with this language for federal lands and working landscapes. And they feel it better reflects what actually might happen in those landscapes and sets the expectations more clearly.
Well, is it true that somebody can just make a bid on a piece of state land? I think there was a piece that just was sold over in the University Heights area. Is that something that the state controls, that you control, or that any individual can control just by offering money?
The State Land Department has a process by which they put parcels out to auction. You know, they're not a natural resource agency. Their job as an agency and their mission is to create the best return on investment for their trustees. And the trustees are, of course, schools and educational institutions in the state of Arizona. So they have a process by which a developer or someone in the community can request that a parcel be put up for auction. And those are public auctions where bidders come and prepare and make bids on the property. The process for that is that they do archaeological clearances on them. They get appraisals, they set the minimum bid price, and they announce an auction. Just because someone requests an auction doesn't mean that state land will always, the Arizona State Land Department will always determine that that is the most beneficial outcome for their trustees. But that is how they have that fiduciary responsibility. And so their decision-making is based on that, essentially. And they do look at the general plan for the city and county and the comprehensive plan for the county. And if it says this is the land use that is supported as what you could rezone these properties to, because they're often like rural residential or very low density, then that it goes into their considerations as well.
Thank you.
And state land always likes to remind people that you're not allowed to recreate on state land without a permit. And I think they would appreciate if I just keep saying that out loud over and over again. Right, Melissa?
Well, yes, but as we know, that happens anyway. So let's just
Yes.
leave it at that.
The standard disclaimer. So the plan also, there are a lot of things in the plan because we were really trying to create priorities and succinctness that were chapters or were major themes that are not as always clear or easy to see. So we are going to have symbols that identify where different goals and policies are emphasizing or working within these different themes. So this is kind of going to be something where there will be, a symbol associated with each of these themes, and people will be able to kind of find it in the document, even though there's no longer a community character chapter or goal or policy that says community character. So next slide. So I talked a little bit about having policy maps and and informational maps was going to help us. The regional plan does have major and minor plan amendment categories for the city. The county does things a little differently, where they use the comprehensive plan categories for amendments to the regional plan. The comprehensive plan already has categories for administrative changes, but the regional plan does not. So we have not been able to make minor changes to our current regional plan. So we are proposing a new category. Other jurisdictions do this as well, that we have a list of administrative changes that we can make to the regional plan. And that includes updates to formatting, updating the links in the document, correcting Scrivener's errors in the mapping or text, changes to the future growth illustration that are adopted by the city or county within their jurisdiction. So for instance, the county adopted changes to the Belmont area in the regional plan, but the city never put it on our maps because we did not have a way to do that without also going through the plan amendment process. So basically that number 3 is if the county goes through the process of amending the plan, we're just going to put it on the city maps too, so that our maps can do not diverge as the current ones have. We also want to make sure that if we identify a new park or open space by ordinance or dedication, when we say dedication, we don't mean like a ribbon cutting, we mean like a dedication with the recorder. And then we would like to also be able to take those forward without having to do a big plan amendment about them. There's also in the growth and land use chapter a table that we have put together to help support something in the city we do, which is concept map rezonings. So we can more clearly decide if something is a yes or no based on a concept zoning map amendment. And if we update the zoning code, we don't want that table to become out of sync with the zoning code. So if we rename a category or we combine categories in the zoning code, we would like to be able to have the zoning map amendments ordinance include how this table will be updated without having to go through another plan amendment. So really these are about not creating a duplicative process with the regional plan. And likewise, the factual updates to informational maps, a good example of that is the Arizona Department of Game and Fish had updates to the prairie dog colony layer that was on the current map, and we never updated it because going through a minor plan amendment to update the map was prohibitive because of lack of staff time and the ability to process the application with all of our other workloads. So these are the categories for administrative changes that we're hoping we can get support for, so that the workflow of keeping the plan a living document is sensible and also easier to manage the dual processes of county amendments and city amendments.
Sarah, I just would like to add to that, because
Go
this
ahead.
is this is a really important change to the regional plan. The county's comprehensive plan already has a very useful list of administrative changes to the comprehensive plan, and it makes it very easy to do certain updates. They're slightly different than what you're seeing here on the screen. So this is an important change to the regional plan. And then, just to kind of remind us all that the county's comprehensive plan changes are easier in a sense, because we don't have that future land use map, but we'll talk more on that later. But this is a really, I think, important piece to keep an eye on for the regional plan update. Thanks, that's all I had.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's a way of bringing a lot more alignment to how we go moving forward. And this is all lessons learned from staff experience, right, Melissa?
Yeah, yes. I mean, the administrative changes just are common sense if you really take a look at what this means.
Are there any questions about this, or should we move on? We're pretty close to the end here. Oh, we're at questions. Yay. Are there any questions for us? Thank you.
Commissioner Best, I see your hand raised.
Thank you, and I'm going to lower it before I speak.
Okay.
I think I get the schedule pretty well. So will there ever be a presentation to county planning and zoning? And will county planning and zone, and that presentation would be perhaps a back and forth where we get to suggest things or get questions answered? And will we ever vote on it?
The Planning and Zoning Commission will have the retreat in March. I don't know if we can go back to that slide maybe. But yes, if during the 6-day public review, you would like to have a commission meeting where we basically, I think, send it to you to read. I don't know if you'd want much of a presentation from us on it. You need to read it, I think. And then, especially because you're the Planning and Zoning Commission, and then we could come and answer your questions. The opportunity for Planning and Zoning to really make changes or suggest changes to the plan is at the retreat. Or through a back and forth dialogue with your staff on changes you would like to see.
And also then, Commissioner Best, yes, there will be a regular public hearing with the Planning and Zoning Commission to adopt this, just like you would with any area plan or comprehensive plan. So the Flagstaff Regional Plan will go through the same public hearing process that we will use for a comprehensive plan or an area plan.
Right, and the order of
after the retreat.
After the retreat, do you see the slide on the screen here? So this is showing the retreat draft in March of 2025, and the intent here is to bring together both the county and city planning and zoning commissions, along with the board of supervisors and the city council, to meet and really dive deep into the plan.
And
if you haven't already.
And we did. The board of supervisors did state that they would prefer the city actually fully adopt the plan, like at least send it to the voters before the public hearing process in the county starts. That when we have the March retreat, we will revisit that question and make sure that we have a good understanding of expectations about timing for that.
Well, if it goes to the city and is voted on and passed, then I believe that's a done deal.
Well, the county still has to adopt it.
Yeah, but
and remember, it's adopted as an amendment to the county's comprehensive plan, and it would be a major amendment to the comprehensive plan.
Okay, it seems like it seems like the retreat in March with both planning and zoning commissions, council and the supervisors is not pretty tough for a deep dive. That's a lot of people. If you would be willing to, I would love to just maybe take a work session and devote it to back and forth. It just after we get a chance to read the 200 some page document, which I think comes out in October, have a little time to digest that, and then maybe have a little back and forth if that's possible. I guess there are other venues in which we could do that. And I guess it depends on how the rest of the commission feels about that.
I will say, Commissioner Best, that we expect to make changes after the 60-day public review. I don't like to run a public review process when we're like so close to done that we're not willing to really make a lot of changes. So really think about what we would be reviewing with you in that 60-day public review timeframe, maybe like November or December, is going to change because of the public feedback we're going to get over the 60 days.
So in other words, you feel like it would be a good idea to wait until the 60-day public review is over and which pretty much brings us to the retreat in March.
I think I think maybe it'd be a good idea to have it be late in the 60-day review so we could tell you what we're hearing from the public in general too. Like, I think that would be useful if you were going to have a back and forth with staff about it, of also at least getting like a summary of public comments so far, which I think will take a few weeks for us to kind of generate some with the outreach that we have planned.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, I will just speak for myself. I would love at some point, maybe when things are a little more mature in the process, and after we have digested the document, to be able to have at it and see how we feel that it relates to the county and any other issues. So I invite you back, is what I'm saying. And also, could we please have this presentation sent to us? It's very good. Just these what we're looking at right now.
Sure.
Thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Wilson, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would like to support Commissioner Best's comments regarding the retreat. With just the required participants from the Planning and Zoning Commissions, the board and city council, that's 30 plus people, plus staff and 200 pages. I would imagine that would be a week-long effort potentially. I don't know how long it's envisioned something like that would take, but if we're actually going to look deeply into this and have meaningful discussion about issues that arise, that seems like that's going to take an awful lot of time. So can you give me an estimate of how you visualized that meeting occurring?
Sure, Commissioner Wilson. We have discussed having it be a full 2 days. So not evenings, but asking everyone to take days to do it, daytime days where we're meeting. So about 16 hours. So that would give you more than 1 hour per chapter to discuss it, if that's a good average.
Okay. Early in your presentation, you identified 4 sacred elements, and I haven't heard that term before. I'm not familiar with what the definition of a sacred element is or how you arrived at that. Can you help me?
Sure, that was based on input from participants.
Right there. Nope.
Yeah, it's on the critical success factor slide. One slide back. It's the 5th bullet down. That was brought to us by both the city's coordinator for Indigenous initiatives and by participation of the Indigenous Council and members of the community who are Native American, that this element of how they see the world and the natural world would be very important to incorporate into the natural resource section. So the resource stewardship and resilience chapter of the plan is written with an organization that reflects land, water, air, and fire as how we talk about natural resources. The plan actually also opens with an acknowledgement of the importance of the peaks as a central place in the region and its indigenous names by culture.
Okay. So the word sacred is frequently referred to or interpreted as meaning religious. Is that the intent here?
You know, sacred sites are also recognized in historic preservation and cultural resource management by every federal agency in our region. And for them, it means more of a cultural purpose of culturally sacred. It's sometimes hard to think about indigenous sacredness as basically a religious idea in the Western mind, the way we think of it as people who think in a more Western mindset. And so that is a distinction that anthropologists would make. And so, yeah, it's not necessarily considered a like church and state division. And I see Rose has her hand up and maybe could clarify because I know Rose has been part of these discussions as well. If the chair wants to acknowledge her.
Yeah, Commissioner Tohi, please go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. I appreciate this, and Sarah is really on point here. We're looking at this sacredness as a life way, and it affects all of us, like the life ways of these elements. And so when we think about it from an Indigenous perspective, sacredness is not a religion. It's a way of life. It's a way of looking at things where you hold them in respect and with honor. And so that you have this relationship, this interdependent relationship with these elements that are so important to all of us, you know, important to life. So that's where this factor, the way that this is pointed out here, that's where that's coming from. Thank you.
Thank you for that. I appreciate it. Another question, you'd mentioned that homes in Flagstaff today can't be replaced for $900,000. Is that what I understood, that you couldn't build a new home in Flagstaff today for $900,000?
The land availability and suitability study that is published on the city's website says you can't build a detached single family home. It costs about $900,000 just to build it, let alone to actually sell it and insure it and all of those other things. So really it is a cost of construction issue that the city is grappling with. And it's some of its supply chain and some of its construction standards and a lot of national and economic trends that are not really in the control of our jurisdiction.
Sure.
But it's a very interesting report if you would like to read it, and we'd be happy to send you a link. I know it's written for the city, but I think it certainly has regional implications.
Yeah, I would be curious if you could. Thank you very much. And finally, you talked about the introduction of land use categories, and I'm not real clear after hearing about land use categories what they do that is different from what current zoning does, or if there is a potential for conflict between the two. Could you help me with that?
Sure, that's a really good question. Melissa, would you go to the map so maybe we can talk about it in an illustrative way? So we've been through some iterations with this map in the regional plan. The 2001 version of this was parcel specific, and it was so specific that it was basically another level of zoning. So if you wanted to do something, it was like very narrow. It was like, this is a golf course, this is single family homes, this is multifamily homes. The 2014 version of this map was, because of that experience of having it be so specific that it was another layer of zoning, it was generalized, and the map wasn't parcel specific. It kind of had these soft lines that like swooped through the middles of people's parcels. It also had, such broad definitions of what you could do in those categories that sometimes we struggled because it was so disconnected from the way the code was written in the city that it created conflicts. Like, for instance, in suburban neighborhoods, it would say that you could be up to 13 dwelling units per acre, but the zoning category for medium density residential only went up to 10 dwelling units per acre. And then you were in high density residential if you wanted to be at 13 units per acre. But that zoning category let you get up to 29 units per acre. So it was just very out of sync. And that was problematic as well. So this map is parcel specific. So it takes that generalized map and applies it more at the parcel level. But it does have pretty generalized categories. Each category that you see off there that I know is a little grayed out at the top has like 6 to 8 guidelines about it. Not 30, not anything super land use specific. So if you were doing the way a county does your rezoning cases, or what the city calls a direct to ordinance rezoning, you could use those guidelines to determine if you're in the right category or not when you start working on your project. At the same time, the city is trying to start to work towards having concept rezonings, which is where we rezone a property to a zoning category without having a site-specific map all the time. And we probably are always going to have some direct to ordinance rezonings, but we're also trying to do concept rezonings, which is much more common in other jurisdictions. In fact, when I started working in Arizona, I had never seen anyone do a direct to ordinance rezoning, because Florida and Indiana, where I had learned about zoning, they almost always do a concept rezoning with a couple conditions. We are much more specific in how we approach those things in our county, and some of that's tradition and some of that's our history. But we're trying to kind of find a way that streamlines the zoning process in the name of both affordability and some of the climate goals that the city has. So there's kind of multiple ways that these categories can be applied. But like the first test when someone comes in with a project idea is, and it requires a rezoning or an annexation, and Melissa can maybe explain how my work in the conditional use permit category is, are you proposing something that even makes sense in the land use category that is applied to the parcel you're working on?
Sarah, let me just clarify a little bit too here. So this is primarily used in the county for rezoning, and these are not zoning districts. But for instance, if there was a parcel, say, down here in Kachina Village in this what is called rural neighborhood, and a property owner wanted to come in with a rezoning, we would look at this map and look at the descriptions of these future growth illustration categories and see if it met the intent of that. So it's very different from the zoning in that sense. They're much more generalized. It does give us a density range and then certain characteristics that we would look for. But it's not a zoning. And remember, so for the county, this is really the only, besides Belmont does have a future growth map, basically, that area plan does, but this is the only future growth map that the county has. The rest of the county does not have this type of future growth illustration. We do have our zoning map, but not this, because this is anticipated basically what the vision is for the next 20 years of this region. It's a visionary map, it's not zoning.
So it sounds to me like this is something that's above and beyond zoning at a higher level, but yet another layer of bureaucracy.
Well, it sets the stage for rezoning. So when a property owner comes in for rezoning, we will look at this and look at whether or not it conforms with this map. So it does anticipate some changes. A lot of the changes on the map are in the city. in the city limits that obviously we wouldn't have jurisdiction over at the county level, but it does then apply to these portions of the county as well. And this has been in place for over 30 years, this map.
Is the plan that we're going to eventually review going to be able to show us where these have changed, where the land use categories have changed?
That's a good question. We could create something like that. Sarah, what are we thinking
I
in
mean,
terms of
the problem is that the generalization of the current map
it's so
doesn't,
different.
it's so different. Yeah, like basically the generalization of the current map left it so that staff had to interpret it to decide what applied to a parcel, which not every property owner liked the way we did it. We tried to come up with a way to do it and be consistent. But sometimes the variation was going right through the middle of somebody's property.
It's been difficult to use that
Okay.
map. Yeah, it
So-
definitely has been difficult.
My questions are kind of all focusing towards the question of, will a land use category potentially affect the value or the use of a piece of land differently than it is today? And as a result, cause potential legal questions about, and I forget the Arizona proposition number, but that says, if you change the value of the property as a result of a rezone or something, that the property owner is entitled to reimbursement for that. Isn't
So I
that
think
what
what
we're doing
you're-
here?
I think what you're asking is the Private Property Rights Protection Act. That is not, I have not seen, and that has never been tested against a general plan or a comprehensive plan. Because those general plans and comprehensive plans are policy documents. They are not land use laws. And the requirement that they don't change anyone's existing entitlements, essentially. I mean, could we see that kind of question in the future be asked in a court? Maybe, but I don't know that that's probably something we'd have to get the attorneys here and to dive into details in an e-session, at least at the city level. I don't know how you guys would do that at the county.
And Sarah, to add to that, then when this map was being created, Commissioner Wilson, we did look at existing zoning and nothing was applied that would be, except the only consideration was that area near the airport, but they retain their current equivalent zoning densities, if you will. So there was nothing in the county that was essentially colored anything less than what their existing entitlement was. If anything, some areas would have somewhat of a greater flexibility in a potential future rezoning, if that makes sense.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah, a good and complicated question.
Very good question.
Yeah, Commissioner Best?
First question, I guess I have two, is can you zoom in on this map?
I cannot, I don't think, in a PowerPoint.
Yeah.
No, but I mean, can you zoom in and see more detail of parcels
Yes.
and such? Okay. Well, if we're at the end and we're asking questions, here's a big question. And I'm asking this both of Sarah and Melissa representing the comprehensive plan and the regional plan. It's obvious to me that the biggest planning event in the history of Flagstaff was the hospital situation that happened last year. I would call it an event. I might call it a meltdown. And nothing in what I've been dealing with for almost 20 years in planning and zoning in the county really relates to our healthcare situation in Flagstaff, the healthcare community. I have yet to see anything in the regional plan. I understand that it's been brought up by the committee by the regional plan committee and it was determined that the county health had jurisdiction. I don't know what the plan is for the comprehensive plan in the county and how that will relate. But our healthcare system has melted down. Our hospital administrators are somewhere plotting to move the hospital out of town, is the latest information I have. It would simply be not understandable to me that we did not address the obvious lack of communication and coordination in our healthcare community, which is, I'm sure, the biggest business in town, among other things, and an essential business for all of us. I know it's kind of new territory for both the city and the county, but what happened was a meltdown. And so I hope that that you two are coordinating how we can address the situation. It would just be unbelievable to me that, given what's happened, we would let the past determine the future and not address it as robustly as possible. We're in a situation where we could find that our hospital just moved 20 miles out of town. And so that's just a comment, and I look forward to seeing what happens in both the comprehensive plan and the regional plan, but I hope that something is going to happen. And thanks.
Thank you, Commissioner Best. I'm not seeing any other hands raised by commissioners at this time. So Ms. Shaw and Ms. Dector, does that bring that presentation to a close at this point?
It does bring the update on the Flagstaff Regional Plan to a close.
Okay.
We had just a few more department updates for you if we
Yes.
are done with
Yeah,
this.
please go ahead.
Okay, thank you. And so this was an opportunity to segue into just a few slides about the county's comprehensive plan, which you all have been updated on, and we did get the same update to the joint City Council Board of Supervisors work session earlier this week. And just again, as a refresher, we began the required 10-year update for the comprehensive plan in January of 2023 when we started with scoping. We do like to, continuously remind all of us that the Flagstaff Regional Plan is an amendment to the comprehensive plan. And our comprehensive plan advisory group began meeting in July, and they'll be meeting this week on Thursday to review the first 2 draft chapters, and that will be water resources and also sustainability, resiliency, energy, and climate. So that's this Thursday beginning at 5 o'clock. It will be here in our Thomas Auditorium and also online on Teams. Just again, a very simplified schedule in terms of our timeline for the comprehensive plan update. We are drafting the plan in phase 2. We began back, with data analysis and collection, and we're still working on pulling chapters together as we are writing those through the winter, anticipating adoption, ready for public hearing in the spring of 2025. That's after a 60-day public review. So we also have that same statutory requirement to put it out for 60-day public review to the public. You all have seen this map multiple times. It's a map of the county. The blue rectangle is the Flagstaff region that we're doing the Flagstaff region plan for. And this just illustrates different land ownerships, but also the different communities within the county that we are trying to connect with, as in addition to the different agencies, organizations, and commissions. And so that was just a very quick update for you on the county's comprehensive plan, and we're always happy to answer questions for you about that.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Shaw. Do any commissioners have any questions for Ms. Shaw regarding this? And I'm not seeing any hands raised. So Mr. McNeely, would you please take us to the Board of Supervisors update?
Absolutely, Madam Chair. Thanks. The next thing on the Board of Supervisors hearing schedule coming from this body would be Appeal 2403. That's an appeal of CUP 2415. That was the broadband tower, wireless telecommunication facility near the Star School, just north of the Star School on off of Loop Road. That will go to the Board of Supervisors on appeal on October 15th. We had property owners in the surrounding area who appealed your approval of that CUP. So again, that appeal goes to the Planning and Zoning, to the Board of Supervisors on October 15th. Any questions or comments on that CUP appeal?
Commissioner Wilson, please go ahead.
Not on that one specifically, but previously there was an appeal of a campground that had been applied for. I think that was the previous month with the Board of Supervisors. Did the board side with or against the commission?
Yeah, so thank you, Commissioner Wilson. Commissioner Wilson, Chair Navarez, I believe we updated you all on that last month, but that may be an omission on our part. But no, the Board of Supervisors upheld the Planning and Zoning Commission's denial of that campground CUP.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
All right. Again, this is Chair Ontiveros. I'm not seeing any hands raised. So let's go ahead and go to Commission and Staff Roundtable. Commissioner Best, you're up.
Thank you, ma'am. So I have asked Mr. McNeely for a tour of BREC, and I don't know if anybody else is interested. BREC is the Babbitt Ranches Energy Center. What I think I've already talked about this last month, but when we went out to take a look at the towers, prior to looking at whatever the name of the next 100 towers is, we saw acres of invasive weeds that had been created when they put the road in. The road's 90 feet wide. They bladed the road 90 feet wide for a 30-foot road. So there's 30 feet of Russian thistle on each side. And I know that Mr. McNeely has been in touch with who's ever operating BREC, and but that just led me to want to see inside the fence. Go look at the towers, and my understanding is that they're substantially done. It's beautiful weather. Let's go for a ride. So I'd appreciate it if a tour could be arranged.
So, Madam Chair and Commissioner Best, thanks for that. Sure, we, getting past your hearing this evening, we're heading into a new month next month. Weather should be great this next month. Of course, your hearing next month is October 30th. Don't want to cramp your schedules too much. So if any other commissioners have any input on what might work well for them, of course, we would have to coordinate this with the Babbitt Ranches Energy Center. But we could look at possibly somewhere in the middle 3 weeks of next month.
That would work for me if you could put out maybe a couple of choices.
Okay, we'll try to pick out some days. The weekly staff cycle schedule being what it is, and when we can get a vehicle together. Obviously, we can't. If we were to have a quorum, we would have to post it. Haven't run into that in your recent field trips yet, but we will pick out some dates and email the commissioners and try to set something up next month.
Okay, thank you, Mr. McNeely. Anything else on Commission and Staff Roundtable? All right, I'm not seeing any. My clock shows 5:19. Why don't we take about a 10-minute break before the hearing begins? Mr. McNeely, this is Chair Aunt Tavares. I'm just checking to see if staff is ready to go.
Thank you, Chair Veros. This is Jess with staff. Yes, staff is ready to hold your public hearing.
Okay, it is 5:30 p.m., so I'm going to call the meeting to order. I'm going to start by reading the meeting rules and procedures. So, welcome to the September 25th, 2024 meeting of the Coconino County Planning and Zoning Commission. Cases will be heard in the order they appear on the agenda. Following the staff presentation, the applicant and/or the applicant's representative may address the commission. As an applicant, if you agree with the staff report and have no additional information, please feel free to keep your comments brief. Any relevant comments are welcome. Following the applicant's presentation, I will make a call to the public. If you wish to address this case, please state your name and address. We ask that your comments be limited to 3 minutes or less. Comments must be relevant to the case. Please address all comments to the commission. No matter how strongly you may feel about the case, all comments must be polite and courteous. After all interested public have spoken, the public comment portion will be closed. Discussion will then take place amongst commissioners. Decisions of this commission regarding any zone change or preliminary subdivision plat approval are referred to the Board of Supervisors as a recommendation. All other case decisions are binding unless appealed to the Board of Supervisors. If you disagree with the commission's decision, you have 15 days to appeal. Please contact staff at the Community Development Office for appeal procedures. Due to the virtual nature of this meeting, I will be doing a roll call vote of the commissioners to ensure accuracy for the record. Please mute your speakers and turn off your camera. Also, please do not use the comment function for discussion. It is strictly for communicating with staff if you are having some kind of a connectivity or tech issue. With that, thank you for joining us this evening and actively participating in our county planning. The first item on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. I would like to ask everyone to please stand. And Mr. McNeely, would you please lead us?
Will do, Chair Veros. Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you, Mr. McNeely. The next item on the agenda is the approval of the August 28th, 2024 minutes. Commissioner Wilson, I see your hand raised. Commissioner Wilson, your hand is raised and you are muted.
Yes, ma'am, you are correct.
Okay,
Sorry
there
about
you
that.
go. We can hear you now.
I apologize for missing the meeting, but I reviewed the minutes, I think on page 7, second paragraph near the bottom. The date says July of 2035, and I believe that should be 2025.
You know what? I don't have the written ones in front of me. But I believe that you are correct with that. Well, wait a minute. I'm going to have to look at that. Let me pull that up. Can you give me the, what page number is that on of the minutes?
Page 7.
Okay.
You were right there, right? The cursor's right there. Yep.
Yep.
Oh,
Good catch.
okay.
Thank
Hold
you,
on. Let me
Commissioner
go back.
Wilson.
And that's all. Thank you.
If this was a Word doc, I'd change it on the spot, but staff can certainly make that correction.
Okay. Anything further? Thank you
Not
for
from me.
that, Commissioner Wilson. All right, then I will accept a motion in a second, please.
This is Commissioner Tohi. I'll go ahead and so move with the corrections.
I second.
Okay, I have a motion by Commissioner Tohi and a second by Commissioner Walsh for approval of the August 28th, 2024 minutes with the modification as stated. All in favor, please say aye. Commissioner Wilson,
Abstain?
Commissioner Towhee,
Aye.
Commissioner Walsh,
Aye.
Commissioner Ruggles,
Aye.
Vice Chair Burton,
Aye.
Commissioner Best.
Aye.
This is Chair Ontiveros, and I also vote aye. The next item are our public hearings. Item number 1 on the agenda this evening was previously heard by this commission on July 31st, 2024, and the commission unanimously voted to forward a recommendation of approval of this case to the Board of Supervisors. However, the newspaper failed to publish the public notice for this case, and the county attorney's office advised that this case would need to be properly noticed and reheard at the commission level before being forwarded to the Board of Supervisors. Item number 2 on the agenda is a simple request for a CUP renewal of an expired 149-foot wireless communications facility. This case could have received administrative approval if the renewal request would have been submitted before it expired on May 29, 2024. Both of these cases have staff recommended approval. If any commissioners wish to discuss either of these cases, please raise your hand. Otherwise, I will move them forward as consent agenda items. Commissioner Wilson, I see your hand raised.
It appears to me that the tower that is being reapproved doesn't meet the requirements for fall radius, that if it fell, it would be outside of the the property that it exists on.
Oh, okay, so it sounds like you want to discuss this case, so let's pull it from the consent agenda item or
Okay.
consent agenda, and we can actually, now I've got counsel raising, Ms. Lane, please go ahead.
I know you're moving them forward as consent agenda items, but they are labeled as public hearings, so I would just recommend opening it up to the public just in case someone's here to talk on them. Just because I think that is a requirement and it is noticed as such.
Yes, and I was going to do that. I was reaching out to the commissioners first, and then I was going to reach out to the public. So
Perfect.
at least on item number 2, Commissioner Wilson has asked that that be pulled from consent agenda. Council, would it be okay if no one from the public wishes to speak on item number 1 if we move that forward on consent agenda with just a motion in a second?
Yes, I think that would be fine. I think it just needs to be opened up to the public for a hearing at some point, and then you can proceed as you've just said.
Okay, yes, absolutely. And I had intended to do that, but thank you for your counsel. So I am now going to ask if there is anyone in the public that wishes to address the commission on case number ZC 24003. And I am seeing none. So I will accept a motion and a second to move this forward to the Board of Supervisors as a recommendation of approval, please.
Okay, I'll
Madam
go ahead
Chair.
and make a motion on that. Are you ready to go for a motion?
Yes, I am, Commissioner Ruggles. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. I move for what constitutes a second approval of ZC 24-003 as previously approved by this commission.
I second that.
Okay, I have a motion by Commissioner Ruggles and a second by Commissioner Walsh.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but the motion was to approve it, and actually we're recommending approval to the Board of Supervisors.
Yes,
Great.
and
Very good.
I was-
So
yeah, and I
I'll
was going to
restate
state that. Yeah, go ahead, Commissioner Ruggles.
I'll
and
simply
state that. I
restate
was going
that.
to state it, but go ahead.
How about recommendation in place of the word approval?
Okay, yes, what we're doing is I need a motion to recommend approval of this case to the Board of Supervisors. Is that what you meant, Commissioner Ruggles?
Yes, it should be worded as a recommendation, not a previous approval. Although I
Correct.
suppose you could debate that in some way.
Okay. So, Commissioner Walsh, is your second still stand on that motion?
So, yeah, second.
Okay, so I have a motion by Commissioner Ruggles and a second by Commissioner Walsh to recommend approval to the Board of Supervisors for ZC 24003. All in favor, please say aye. Commissioner Wilson,
Aye.
Commissioner Towhee,
Aye.
Commissioner Walsh,
Aye.
Commissioner Ruggles,
Aye.
Vice Chair Burt,
Aye.
Commissioner Best,
Aye.
and this is Chair Ontiveros. I also vote aye. The motion passes unanimously. The second item on the agenda this evening is case number CUP 24030.
Madam Chair,
Thanks.
this is Zach Schwartz with Planning and Zoning staff. Let me pull up the PowerPoint really quickly. I just have a few abridged sort of slides on this presentation tonight, but I think I might be able to just sort of quickly answer Commissioner Wilson's question. And then I'm happy to move forward with the presentation if that's still warranted after that. So looking back through the case, this was approved originally in 2009 and renewed, I think it was, 2014 and 2019. The staff at the time, let me pull up the staff report, noted that the tower height was not going to meet the fall zone requirement of 105% of the tower height. And the Forest Service doesn't really provide easements for that sort of thing. So in lieu of that, staff recommended a condition of that 2009 approval that they receive a letter from the Forest Service acknowledging that it would be okay if the tower were to fail onto the National Forest. And staff did receive that prior to the 2014 renewal of the request, actually prior to issuance of the building permit for that request. So I'm hoping that satisfies the commission, but happy to move forward with going through the PowerPoint if that's warranted as well.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Schwartz. Commissioner Wilson, I see your hand raised.
Mr. Schwartz, does that letter have any type of a deadline on it, or is it valid in perpetuity?
Commissioner Wilson, I didn't see any expiration date on it.
Okay, and then a second question I have is one of the criteria that we have to use when approving these is there an identified gap in coverage? And at the time this was originally approved, that obviously was the case. Does the need to identify a gap in coverage remain present today when we're reapproving this?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Wilson, so the gap in coverage issue was part of the Telecommunications Act of 1996. So
Right.
yes, it was well established by that time and it was identified. I think it's safe to say that if the findings and the gap in coverage were all sort of analyzed for 2009, 2014, and 2019, that we don't have to revisit that, but I'll defer to legal counsel if they have any comments on that.
Well, the reason I'm asking that question is there's a good chance since this tower was originally erected that there have been other towers in the vicinity erected, and that gap may no longer exist. So
I'm not aware of any other towers in the area. And
Okay.
frankly, staff is looking at this as sort of just a pretty simple renewal.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Vice Chair Burton,
I just had a quick question. Since we're requiring them to reinstall the fake foliage on that tree, the one thing that so I wasn't on the council when it was the commission when it was originally approved, and I'm guessing there were limited options on color tones at the time. But that's a really blue-green tree, and I'm wondering if it's at all possible to ask that it be more of a warm tone, or if we're kind of stuck with that blue-green tone on the pine needles.
Madam Chair, Vice Chair Burton. So here I have on the screen, it originally looked to me, or at least in this, I don't know if the colors of the picture are maybe different. It looked a lot better and maybe it had faded over time. But I think that it's well within the commission's purview to amend the condition that staff has recommended to add in specific color choices as well. I'm not myself aware of what sort of options there are out there. And so the applicant may want to, you may want to ask the applicant what the options might be for that as well.
Okay, yeah, I mean, I've driven by that many times, and before all the foliage fell off of it, I remember noting it stuck out like a sore thumb because it was a cool tone green, not a warm tone green, and you can see that compared to the pine tree next to it. So, that is something that I would like to put in there if it's something that's even possible to do, because I also don't know what options there are, but I would like to think there's more now than there was back then.
That should be a safe assumption. Yeah, I think the applicant can add to the conversation here.
Okay, this is Chair Ontiveros. I'm going to ask if the presentation, I'm going to ask any commissioner that wants further presentation on this case from staff at this point to raise their hand, or if the questions have been answered, and then I'm going to have the applicant speak to Vice Chair Burton's question regarding the coloring of the fake foliage. So I am not seeing any hands raised. So I would like to ask the applicant, could you please state your name and your address for the record? And could you please address the question that was brought up by Vice Chair Burton?
Good evening, Madam Chair and Planning Commission members. First and foremost, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Thank you. For your record, my name is Todd Doust. I'm here on behalf of Crown Castle. My address is 109 East Tuckey Lane in Phoenix, Arizona. Madam Chair, to answer the Vice Chair's question, yeah, the technology for stealthing cell sites has come a long way since the site was originally developed. So it is possible we might be able to select different species or different coloring of the foliage to help screen the antennas. So that is certainly something that we're willing to work with staff on to find a suitable alternative to more effectively blend the site into the natural environment. The only request I would make is to respectfully extend the period from 90 days to 6 months for several reasons. One, obviously, this is a specialty item with unknown lead times, and probably dealing with a little bit more time now that we're going to look at different options in terms of colors or species of faux foliage to help screen the antennas. The other component is some carrier coordination with site turndowns as the branch replacements take place on the structure once we've identified the proper faux foliage to install. One of the other reasons is a capital cycle for my client. As we're all aware, we're nearing the end of the year, and 90 days isn't really 90 days given the holidays, and this isn't something that my client has budgeted, but is now budgeting for first quarter 2025. So we respectfully request that time period be modified to 6 months. And last but certainly not least, I'd like to offer my apologies on behalf of my client for not having this request submitted sooner to allow it to be approved administratively. I know you're all very busy. with very, very busy agendas for both the Planning Commission and the Board of Supervisors. So please, on behalf of my client, accept my apologies for not being more timely in filing for this renewal. With that, I'd be happy to answer any other questions that the Commission may have.
Chair Tavares, you are muted right now.
Oh, yes, yes, I am. Thank you, Mr. McNeely. Thank you, Mr. Douse, for your comments. And I would just like to ask that other than that one modification that you brought up, do you understand the staff report or have any questions for us at this time?
I understand the staff report. I'd like to thank Mr. Schwartz for putting it together. I don't have any additional questions, Madam Chair of the Commission. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And I'm just going to ask again, do any commissioners have any additional questions? Okay, seeing none. Thank you. Mr. Schwartz, are you the one that is modifying the conditions right now?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Okay,
I have,
thank you.
yeah, I have right here the first highlight is if the commission would like to modify this to 6 months rather than the 90 days. And then I wrote some proposed language. I guess it would be staff to look over the color because we don't have it tonight. But I can assure you we'll take a look as a team. So I have some draft language here for you.
Okay, and while we're there, let's just stay on point. Vice Chair Burton, would you please look at that modification? Does that kind of satisfy your request?
I think so. I mean, I'd love to clarify like a warm green color, but if that's not available, I don't want to put that in. I feel it's safe to, if it's an option, great, and that's my preference. So maybe branches shall be a warm green color or a color approved by staff. Just to note that it's my preference that it be more of a warm tone to match the surrounding ponderosas.
Okay, so I'm seeing this being modified right now. So now we've got branches shall be a warm green color or a color approved by staff to match the surrounding ponderosa pine trees.
Yeah, I'm good with that verbiage if the rest of the commission is. And I'll also note that I don't have a problem with the 6 month because he made a lot of valid points there.
Okay, and we'll see how the other commissioners feel when we get to commission discussion. I'm going to ask if there is anyone in the public that wishes to address the commission on this case this evening. If so, please raise your hand. Seeing none, I'm going to close it to the public and open it up at commission discussion. Commissioner Wilson, why don't you go ahead and start us this evening?
Madam Chair, I can make the findings for this CUP. I do have a question. Mr. Schwartz's report that he's editing real time shows this is CUP 24030, but the staff report that I received says it's 031. And I want to make sure that whatever we approve tonight is the correct CUP number.
Okay, I show 24030 on mine, but let's do Mr. Schwartz, if we could confirm that, please.
Madam Chair, Commissioners, I'm looking at the agenda. I'm looking at the staff report that I'm working on. I have CUP 24030. I don't know, Mr. McNeely, do you see anything else? 2431 should be the next case on the agenda. Yes. That is the J. Douglas RV Park.
Okay. Correct. Yeah, I see this one is 30 and the next one is 31.
Yes.
That was my mistake. Correct. I retract that question.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Wilson. I think we're on task there with that. All right, so Commissioner Wilson, you stated you could make the findings. Commissioner Tohi. Oh, Commissioner Wilson, let me ask you, do you have any issues with either of the two modifications?
No, they're great.
Okay, Commissioner Tohi, same to you.
I also make the findings and I agree with the two modifications.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Walsh.
Oh, I'm gonna sneeze. Okay, I can make the findings with the modifications. Thank you.
Thank you. Bless you. Commissioner Ruggles.
I also can make the findings with the modifications that I happen to see on my screen right now. So, well, I I spoke too soon.
Okay. Okay, there we go.
What I see
think-
on the
think-
screen right now, I can make the
Okay.
findings for that. And
Okay.
I would vote for approval of this.
Okay, thank you, Vice Chair Burton.
I can make the findings. I'm good with the changes.
Okay, Commissioner Best.
I can make the findings, but it's been an interesting, much more interesting case than I thought. First of all, that we have more color options these days. We've approved some towers that look frankly pretty bad out there. And so I encourage staff to go down this road and figure out how in the future we can have confidence that towers that we're approving are going to look reasonably at least the same color as Ponderosa Pines. I mean, we've seen some of these that look great and some that look pretty bad. And I would also encourage staff to think about the two pictures that we saw. And apparently these fake pine needles fall off just like regular pine needles. And so what in the future conditions should we be putting on towers so that they get refurbished occasionally? What is the length of time? Or just look into the issue. So the color and the health of the pine tree are issues that we should be thinking about next time we get a tower. But I can make the findings. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Best. This is Chair Ontiveros. I also can make the finding and am in agreement with both of the modifications. With that, I will accept a motion in a second, please.
I'll move that we approve CUP-24-030 with the modifications as shown on the screen.
I would like to second that motion.
Okay, I've got a motion by Vice Chair Burton, a second by Commissioner Ruggles for approval of CUP 24030 with modifications. As stated, all in favor, please say aye. Commissioner Wilson?
Aye.
Commissioner Towhee?
Aye.
Commissioner Walsh?
Aye.
Commissioner Ruggles?
Aye.
Vice Chair Burton?
Aye.
Commissioner Best?
Aye.
This is Chair Ontiveros. I also vote aye. The motion passes unanimously. The third item on the agenda this evening is CUP 24031.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the commission. This case is the Donny RV Park at CUP 2431. And in this case, the applicant and the owner is Jay Douglas of Flagstaff, Arizona. The property address is at 8025 State Route 89 in Donny Park. The zoning is CG 10,000. And the parcel size is 2.76 acres. Is everyone able to hear me?
Yep, we can hear you just fine.
Okay, thanks. Okay, so in this case, the request is a conditional use permit renewal of a 15-space RV park. This was originally approved in 2019, and again, like some other cases, the CUP expired on April 24th, 2024, and is not eligible for administrative renewal. And this is the vicinity map showing the subject property. You can see Highway 89 going up through Donny Park, right here at the corner of Burris Lane. And this is an aerial photo. The RV park is on this side primarily. I believe there's some septic tanks and septic areas in here. And this is 89. These are two entrances along Burris Lane. And this is a background on this particular RV park. It was originally, this is originally a manufactured home park, goes back to 1975 as Al's Trailer Park. And many residents have lived here for decades, so it has provided some affordable housing for the area. The applicant has removed some of the older mobile homes and has replaced them with park model RVs. There was also a dilapidated building along the ADOT right-of-way in front of this property. It was about halfway on the property and about halfway in the ADOT right-of-way. And that was conditioned to be removed, and it was removed. And it looks a lot better. I'll show you that in a minute. There were a couple of waivers. One was to landscaping, and that just allowed that the elm trees on the property. There are a lot of elm trees along Burst Lane and throughout the site, and they're all very mature, very large trees. So those were approved to serve as landscaping without any additional landscaping being installed. And there's also a sign waiver, and there is a kind of a nice sign out on the right of way, or out near the right of way, and that was allowed to remain and be with the sign base changed. So this is that original site plan, has each of the spaces numbered. And these are some of the RVs that have replaced old mobile homes that are on the property before. You can see some of those elm trees. And here's some, this is a picture along Burst Lane. You can see some of the old manufactured homes, and you can again see those elm trees along the frontage on Burst Lane. And the applicant was also required, the reason, by the way, that this does require a CUP is because it's adjacent to residential property, I believe to the east, and fencing is required along that property line. This is the fencing the applicant has installed. And this is what it looked like before. This is kind of get your attention a little bit. So this is what the property looked like along the frontage before. You can see the old sign up there, this old building. And this is what the property looks like now. So the applicant did a great job of redoing the signage on the property. And I did discuss this with the applicant today. And condition 3 of the original CUP is shown here. And what it says is existing mobile homes may not be replaced with mobile homes. Once an existing mobile home has left the site, the space may be utilized by a recreation, or may be utilized by a recreational vehicle. So this kind of said that you couldn't take out a mobile home, put another mobile home in. And the applicant didn't understand that at the time. And since then, we've also had some code updates that allows this as, it allows for mixed use in an area like this. This is an activity center in the Doty Park area plan. And that would allow for mixed use. In this case, that would be the RV park. That's a commercial use, and the manufactured homes. So he has asked that this condition be removed, and staff would recommend that this condition be removed from the conditions of this CUP. These are the findings of fact for a CUP. They were addressed in the original application. And with that, staff recommends approval, CUP 2431. With the recommended conditions. And with that, I'll take any questions from the commission.
Okay, this is Chair Ontiveros. Thank you, Mr. Short. I am not seeing any hands. Yes, I am. Commissioner Wilson, please go ahead.
Mr. Short, I'm just curious. Condition number 11 says inoperable and unlicensed vehicles shall be removed from the premises. Outdoor storage must also be adequately screened. Is there a problem with that, or what's the purpose behind that condition? Why is it there?
That was I believe at the time when this was first approved, there were a number of unlicensed vehicles on the property. And if you read the staff report, You did see that staff did notice there was one there when I went out for the site visit. However, the applicant has indicated that's been removed at this point. When I told him that that was there and needed to be removed, that has been removed. And the only other thing was there was a requirement to screen the dumpsters. That's actually the dumpster or the trash receptacle on the property.
Yeah, that's a separate condition.
Right. Okay. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
All right.
So there isn't, I guess, to finish answering that question, there isn't really any unscreened storage on the property now. It's all pretty clean. Besides that dumpster, which we're working with the applicant to do that. And that is actually a requirement of the zoning ordinance.
Right.
For commercial
Okay.
properties.
I was just wondering why we're adding that in there, because I go by there multiple times a day and haven't seen any issues related to that. So I was curious to know why we would add that as a condition. Is it something that's just been carried over from previous CUPs?
Yeah, this is only the first renewal of this CUP, and it was in the original condition, so that's why it's there.
Okay, I'll wait to hear from the applicant. Thank you.
Okay, and while we're on this topic, this is Sharon Tavares. I'm going to ask Mr. Short, do you feel that this condition should still be contained? We're removing number 3, we'll get to commission discussion and see how the other commissioners feel. But do you feel that number 11 should still be left in there?
It could certainly be removed. There would be no issue with removing that.
Okay, we'll bring that. The commissioners will discuss that at commission discussion. I don't see any other hands raised. So I'm going to ask if the applicant or the applicant's representative would like to address the commission this evening. Please state your name and address for the record. And I would just like to ask if you could address the comments that have been brought up by the commissioners, and I'd like to know how you feel about that. Mr. Short, is the applicant with us this evening?
I have not.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay.
Yep. State your name and address for the record, and go ahead, please.
Yeah, this is Jay Douglas, 223 West Cherry in Flagstaff. I think Bob did a great job of explaining the background and where we're at now. Happy to take any questions. If any of the commissioners have any specific questions that I can address. Regarding condition 3, I did talk to Bob about that, and one of the big reasons for eliminating that was, if residents do want to upgrade their house, some of those homes are pretty old, 1970s. Some of them, I think, are original going back to the 1975 construction of this mobile home park. And so, I just want to make sure that if applicants do want to upgrade their house and they've got, a family and kids and stuff, they don't have to then go to an RV or a park model. They can replace, a 3-bedroom mobile home with a 3-bedroom mobile home, and, keep that kind of momentum of improving the aesthetics of the trailer park.
Okay, thank you for that. You did hear discussion about condition number 11. I can only assume that you would have no problem removing that, but while you're here, I would like your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I definitely have no problem removing it. We do put in all of our lease agreements that, unlicensed and operable uninsured vehicles are not permitted on the property. That is in the lease agreement that they sign. So whenever we come across those, we do try to be pretty proactive in getting the tenants to, either fix them or remove them.
Okay.
But, obviously I have no issue with removal of that condition.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Douglas. I'm going to ask if the commissioners have any questions for the applicant this evening. I'm not seeing any hands raised, so I'm going to ask if there is anyone in the public that wishes to address the commission on this case this evening. If so, please raise your hand. Seeing none, I'm going to close it to public and I'm going to open it at commission discussion. Commissioner Wilson, would you please begin?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I can make the findings necessary to approve this with the elimination of conditions 3 and 11. And I would also like to commend the applicant for cleaning up the place significantly. Like I said, I go by there multiple times a day. It's big improvement, and thank you to him for all of the hard work.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Tohi.
I too find make for the findings and also recommend approval as discussed with the changes and elimination of certain of the things that we talked about. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Walsh.
Hi, I can make the findings. I was very excited that they took that old building out. I was a little bummed that the sagebrush came out. I think sagebrush is great mountain town landscaping. So if any of it grows back, feel free to let it grow. And I can make the findings as modified, removing condition number 3 and 11. Congratulations.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Walsh. Commissioner Ruggles.
Thank you. I can make the findings with the proposed removal of conditions number 3 and condition number 11. I'd also like to say that, like Commissioner Wilson and Commissioner Walsh, that this has been a substantial improvement over what things looked like a few years ago. Since I'm by there quite often, I've been able to see the changes, and especially in terms of the fencing. It's, I think, fits very well with this. So I just recommend everyone else approval of this as we go forward.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Ruggles. Vice Chair Burton.
I had one little question about the condition number 11, and I know that inoperable vehicles are already in our zone code. Is screening outdoor storage in our zone code?
It is.
Okay. As long as I mean, I see no reasons for redundancy. I just wanted to confirm that those were already in the zoning ordinance and that it wouldn't potentially have a future negative impact. So
yeah,
I can make findings.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Best.
This has been a nice success story over the last few years, and I can make the findings.
Thank you. This is Chair Ontiveros. I can also make the findings and am in agreement with the striking conditions 3 and 11. With that, I will accept a motion in a second, please.
Madam Chair, I make a motion that we approve CUP 24-031, striking conditions 3 and 11.
I second that.
Okay, I have a motion by Commissioner Wilson, a second by Commissioner Walsh for approval of CUP 24-031, striking conditions numbers 3 and 11. All in favor, please say aye. Commissioner Wilson?
Aye.
Commissioner Tohi?
Aye.
Commissioner Walsh?
Aye.
Commissioner Ruggles?
Aye.
Vice Chair Burton?
Aye.
Commissioner Best?
Aye.
This is Chair Ontiveros. I also vote aye. The motion passes unanimously. The fourth item on the agenda this evening is case number SUB 24039.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the commission. This case is the Walnut Meadows subdivision amended final plat. That's SUB 2439. And in this case, the property owners are, the first one is Two Man LLC of Flagstaff. The second property owner is Ernie Glaspie of Flagstaff. Applicant is Ian Braun of Civil Design and Engineering of Flagstaff. Zoning is AR 2.5. And the proposed tract size would be 15.65 acres. And in this case, the request is a subdivision amended final plat, expanding the subdivision by adding a parcel and combining this parcel with lots 47 and 50 of the already platted subdivision to create a tract A, and that tract would be dedicated for a community center, recreational facilities, and other outdoor uses. So this is a vicinity map showing the subject property. This is the subdivision. This is Walnut Meadows, Walnut Creek Meadows here. And right in here, you'll see the property that's not in the subdivision and the two lots right there. And just for reference, this is out on Loop Road. This is off of Townsend, Winona, Loop Road. And this is an aerial photo showing those properties. This is the road that comes in, now paved and improved. And these are the two lots. And this is the roughly 10-acre parcel, I believe, that would be added to the subdivision to create this tract. So some background on Walnut Creek Meadows. It was approved for preliminary plat in 2021 and final plat was approved in 2023. The applicant requests this tract to allow for development of amenities for subdivision residents. And I wanted to point out that if once a development is proposed with buildings and different designs, then a design review overlay would be required that the commission would need to approve. And this is the amended final plat. This is the actual amended final plat. So again, you can see that these are proposed to be combined together to create Tract A, the new Tract A. This is a photograph of the property. Currently has a house on that would be removed, but this is the property that is not currently part of the subdivision. The subdivision would be expanded to include this property. And this is looking back down over the two lots that it would be combined with. These are the findings for subdivision, actually preliminary plat subdivision. And these findings the commission was able to make these findings as part of the Walnut Creek Meadows pre-plat approval back in 2021. And with that, staff recommends the commission provides a recommendation that the Board of Supervisors approves SUB 2439. And with that, I'll take any questions from the commission.
This is Chair Antiveros. Thank you, Mr. Short. Mr. Wilson, please, or Commissioner Wilson, please go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Short, on page 95 of the staff report, talks about outdoor lighting and that its subdivision is in lighting zone 3. I thought we only had 2 lighting zones now.
Oh, I think what you're looking at. So what I did was in this, I know this got a little confusing. But
this is the previous.
This is the previous. This is the original 2021 approval with the conditions. I added that to give you some background. Okay. At that time, there was a lighting zone 3.
Okay, so do we need to update this to reflect its current lighting zone as part of this or not?
I don't think so. I don't think it's necessary.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, are there any other questions by commissioners for Mr. Short at this time? Seeing none, I'm going to ask if the applicant or the applicant's representative would like to address the case this evening. Please state your name and address for the record. And I would just like to ask if there is an understanding of the staff report and the conditions.
Madam Chair, members of the commission, this is Ian Braun of Civil Design and Engineering. My address is 618 East Route 66, Flagstaff, Arizona, 86001. We understand the staff report. We're happy with all the work that planning zoning staff did. We don't really have any comments at this time. I think it's relatively straightforward. I'll be available for any questions you might have. And the developer is also on the line, and he will be available if you have any questions.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Braun. I'm actually going to ask if any of the commissioners do have any questions for Mr. Braun or the developer. Seeing none, I'm going to ask if there is anyone in the public that wishes to address the commission on this case this evening. If so, please raise your hand. And seeing none, I'm going to close it to the public and open it up at commission discussion. Commissioner Wilson, would you please begin?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I can make the findings.
Thank you. Commissioner Toki.
I do make the findings as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Walsh.
I can make the findings.
Thank you, Commissioner Ruggles.
I also can make the findings for this case.
Thank you, Vice Chair Burton.
I can make the findings.
Thank you, Commissioner Best.
Looks like a great addition to the development, and I can make the findings.
Okay, this is Chair Antiveros. I also can make the findings. So with that, I will accept a motion in a second, and this will be a motion for to recommend approval to the Board of Supervisors for SUB 24039.
Madam Chair, I make a motion that we recommend approval to the Board of Supervisors for SUB-21-010.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, hold on a minute.
What?
Aren't we on SUB 24029?
Madam
What?
Chair, let me amend that motion. I'm looking at the old report again.
Okay,
Guilty of having done it twice now.
no, you're fine. You're keeping me on my toes. Okay, I just need a second.
Let me
Okay,
get to
I
the.
can do a second to that with the revision to SUB 24-039.
Okay, I have a motion and a second that this go to the Board of Supervisors with a recommendation of approval. All in favor, please say aye. Commissioner Wilson.
Aye.
Commissioner Tohi.
Aye.
Commissioner Walsh.
Aye.
Commissioner Ruggles.
Aye.
Vice Chair Burton.
Aye.
Commissioner Best.
Aye.
This is Chair Antiveros. I also vote aye. The motion passes unanimously. And the final item on our public hearing agenda is case number ZC 24004.
Yes, good evening, commissioners. This is Jessica Simmons, and I will be presenting on the rezone to open space. And am I in presentation mode?
You are.
Yep,
Thank you
are.
very
We can
much.
hear you.
Thank you, commissioners. I am going to be presenting tonight a request by the Parks and Recreation Commission to rezone certain parcels owned by the county to open space. These are parcels that are operated as natural open space, which are accessible to the public for low impact recreation. Rezoning these as open space would preserve this use into the future, as their current zoning is the zoning that these parcels had when they were acquired by the county, which are zonings that allow for development. And so the reason for this request to rezone to open space is to preserve public access, recreational opportunities at these parcels, and to protect the scenic and wildlife habitat values and the ecosystem services they offer, such as water retention and filtration. So here's the list of the 12 parcels. 10 of them are in Kachina Village and 2 are at Rogers Lake, and they total 2,453 acres. And you can see most of them are zoned general. And I was able to make a better map of them for you all this time. The parcels we are looking at, this is Kachina Village, and you can see that 9 of the parcels are centered around the Pump House Wash kind of open meadow, wet meadow area, and the drainage from there along Ancient Trail. And then there is one other parcel out on the west side, which is where Herrenberg Wash is, where the county has carried out a wetland restoration. And then the 2 parcels here are shown Rogers Lake. So rezoning these parcels as open space and preserving the values and the recreational opportunities they offer to the public is in compliance with the comprehensive plan due to the values of offering to the public these low impact recreational opportunities and also preserving natural and environmental values. And these are the findings of fact to approve the zone change. And based on all that, staff recommends that the commission forward a recommendation of approval for ZC 24-004 to the Board of Supervisors. Are there any questions?
Okay, thank you, Ms. Simmons, for that presentation. I am not seeing any hands raised. So you're also the applicant. I mean, you're kind of everybody here. So I'm going to ask if there is anyone in the public that wishes to address the commission on this case this evening. If so, please raise your hand. And I'm not seeing any, so I am going to actually, okay, I see a Miss Alexandria Wright. Ms. Wright, would you please go ahead? State your name and address.
Thank you.
And then 3 minutes.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner. This is Dr. Alexandria Wright at 2462 Tolani Trail down in Kachina. We are within 300 feet of the proposed area. And I just wanted to applaud staff for really taking into consideration the democratic process of the comprehensive plan and this very meaningful goal that was derived by the constituency. So just wanted to thank them and applaud them for a job well done.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Wright, for your comments this evening. Those are appreciated. So I am not seeing anyone else. So I'm going to close it to the public and I am going to open it at commission discussion. Commissioner Wilson.
I can make the findings.
Thank you. Commissioner Towhee.
I too make the findings.
Thank you. Commissioner Walsh.
I can make the findings.
Commissioner Ruggles.
I also can make the findings on this and think it is quite an improvement for the Kachina Village area. And also one other thing, I was involved with this with the Frontieri property when it was acquired by the county, or donated actually. And this takes care of substantial problems that were identified at the time as well. So I can make the findings. It is a tremendous improvement, I think. So thank you.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Ruggles, for those comments. I echo those. Vice Chair Burton.
I can make the findings.
Thank you. Commissioner Best.
I can make the findings. It's a very exciting project, and it's great to see the wildlife planner involved. I can enthusiastically support this.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Beston agreed on having the wildlife planner involved. This is Chair Ontiveros. I can also make the findings and thank everyone who participated in this for all the hard work that was put into it. With that, I will accept a motion and a second, please.
I'll move that we make a recommendation to the Board of Supervisors to approve ZC 24-004.
And I second.
Okay, I think I heard Commissioner Walsh. So I have a motion by Vice Chair Burton to recommend approval to the Board of Supervisors on ZC 24-004. A second by Commissioner Walsh. All in favor, please say aye. Commissioner Wilson.
Aye.
Commissioner Towhee.
Aye.
Commissioner Walsh.
Aye.
Commissioner Ruggles.
Aye.
Vice Chair Burton.
Aye.
Commissioner Best.
Aye.
This is Chair Ontiveros. I also vote aye. The motion passes unanimously. The final item on the agenda this evening is call to public for items not on the agenda. I would like to ask if there is anyone in the public that wishes to address the commission this evening for items not on the agenda. Seeing none, my clock shows 6:28 p.m. and the meeting is adjourned. Good night, everybody.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Good
Great
night.
job. Thank you, Jessica, for
Good
presenting
night.
that case.
Good
Good night, everyone.
Thank you.